The goal of any separation or change in the dynamic of the family is cooperation, reasonableness, open discussion, sharing of information. While that is the goal and that is the hope, that's not what I prepare for. What I prepare for is those cases which can often turn into a high conflict divorce. A lot of people have this misconception that a high conflict divorce is a divorce where there's a lot of assets, or they've been married a really long time, or there's a big financial disparity. And the truth is that's not the cornerstone of a high conflict divorce. A high conflict divorce is a divorce in which emotion has taken over reason. How do you know if you're going to be in a high conflict divorce process? Usually you can see those signs coming by listening to the words of your partner, watching the actions of your partner, and taking the temperature of the feeling in the home. So for instance, if you have said to your partner that you're considering separation or divorce, and the consequence of that was volatility, secrecy, maybe some emotional manipulation, you're probably heading into a high conflict situation. If you've said, I want a divorce, and you've noticed that your spouse has changed the bank accounts, cut off the credit cards, and moved their money into their own account, you're probably heading into a high conflict situation. If you've been having an affair for 5 years and your spouse just found out, you're probably heading into a high conflict situation. That does not mean you are litigating. That does not mean that this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. What that means is, at least in this finite period, we're going to be dealing as much with emotion as we are dealing with the substance of your divorce. Going in knowing that, going in understanding that, will help you diffuse the high conflict nature of your case. If you are the recipient of false claims, and this is probably easiest seen in the context of a domestic violence claim, the best way you can respond is not through emotion. It's not through emotion. The best way you can respond to what you assert to be a false claim is through proofs. So how do you get those proofs? Well, you may pull your phone records if there was a claim that you were texting continuously. Or you may pull your bank records if there was a claim that there was financial control or manipulation. You may pull your employer reimbursement records if there was a claim that you took your girlfriend away or your boyfriend away on the business trip when in fact it was just you on the business trip. Typically, the response to a false allegation is not emotion, it's documents. The best way you can respond to a false allegation is by proving it's false. Sometimes proving it's false is not by proving the allegation itself is false, but that the information you have could not ever possibly support the allegation being made. So for instance, if you were accused of taking your girlfriend to Florida when you should have been on a work trip in Utah, well, you can't prove that you didn't take your girlfriend to Florida, but you can prove that you were at the work trip in Utah. So by taking the emotion out of it and looking at what you can prove, you can not only get rid of the false allegation, but you can also significantly affect the other party's credibility going forward. And that is really your best revenge. Divorce, high conflict, or run-of-the-mill, easy, is an emotional decision. It is an emotional process. I recommend to everyone that they participate in some individual therapy. Sometimes it's more extensive than others. Sometimes it's longer than others. But depending upon the circumstances of your divorce and what actually led you and your spouse to this table, therapy is always, always recommended. I also caution everyone against using their best friend, sister, mother, whomever, in the stead of a therapist. They are not your therapist. They are not going to give you that impartial advice, nor are they going to give you the coping skills to get through this process. So therapy is definitely highly recommended in the beginning, and maintenance therapy throughout. It's always a good question on when is the right time to give in to the demand. And at the end of the day, those are decisions that you have to make because this is your life, right? All we can do is guide you. I do, however, ask everyone when they have made a decision to take a deal that may not be where we were taking the litigation or may not be where you told me you originally wanted to be, is to tell me and articulate to me why you're making this deal and what you're gaining from the deal. So if you are in a divorce process right now and you are feeling like I just have to say enough is enough, I can't do this anymore, sit down and ask yourself, why am I taking this deal and what am I getting from this deal? Because if those two things are simply, I just want to be divorced, then what you've done is you've dealt with today and you've jeopardized 5 years from today. High conflict divorce is not just for the wealthy. It is not just for the high asset individual. High conflict divorce is any divorce in which emotion is a substantial issue that has to be dealt with by one or both parties. The best way to work through a high conflict divorce is by gathering your documents so that you can help to move this process forward, engaging in individual therapy, even if you don't feel like you're the person with the problem, and working towards a resolution that diffuses the situation. If you have questions, give me a call, Jersey Coast Family Law.